she put it into words what I was feeling, and she was saying there's peace in being alone, but the fear comes from being alone with. Suddenly I look at the clock and it's almost 1 a.m. Like, what am I doing? Can you imagine if I start off my Monday having no books on the docket? I just get to pick one and it's the one and only I'm reading. What an experience. What a successful weekend vlog, am I right? Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Leandra the TBR0, and my goal is to lessen my physical TBR one book at a time. I have so many plans this weekend. I'm so excited. Tomorrow is Saturday, and we will be doing this live episode for She Done It. It's a podcast that I work for remotely. Caroline, the host, is going to have this amazing guest, and they're going to talk about everything Agatha Christie, specifically all of the film adaptations that have happened over the years. So I'm really looking forward to that. Obviously, by the time this vlog comes out, by the way, this is a vlog, I will obviously have already went to the event. I will make sure to kind of include some little video snippets on Saturday when it's happening, but I'll also include in the description a link to the recording of that video, especially because a lot of my friends lately have suddenly gotten into Agatha Christie. They want to try her for the first time. So those who are interested in like reading plus watching adaptations for her, that's going to be a great event for you to rewatch even if you miss it. But it is Friday, and what are my plans? Well, it's the afternoon. I'm also realizing that this is the third Friday in a row that I have wet hair for a video, so I think you're all getting to know my hair washing schedule maybe a little bit too intimately. Moving on, I have already worked for She Done It today, so pretty much the afternoon is my oyster. I intend on getting a lot of reading done, but also a few errands. I'm currently only reading 2 books at the moment. I am honestly over the moon for that. Recently, I've been juggling like 5 or 6 books, which has kind of been this cluttering pressure in my mind among other kind of responsibilities. And so I want to declutter my reading area of my mind and actually only lessen myself to maybe 1 book that I'm reading. But at the moment I'm reading 2. One of them is Cal Flynn's Island of Abandonment. This is a nonfiction that I have been reading since late June, and I'm about halfway through. I truly am enjoying it, I promise. It's just that nonfiction is never really one of my priorities. I always put it on the back burner. It's slower for me to get through just because I usually have a lot of more information processing going on while I'm reading it. So I do have the goal of, if not finishing it, getting very, very close by the end of the weekend. And then I am also listening to an audiobook. It is by Jessie Mihalik. It's Hunt the Stars. It's the first book in her Starlight's Shadow trilogy. The reason why I'm listening to it is because the publisher sent me the 3rd book in the series, Capture the Sun, and I'm really excited. I have been in a huge space opera mood lately. I read Dead Silence, which was sci-fi horror in space. I read A Song of Salvation, which was YA space horror. No, it wasn't. It was a YA space opera series. So I'm just in that space opera mood. So this was just perfect timing. Thank you, Harper Voyager. Thank you, Jessie Mihalik. And thank you, Victoria over at Biblio Lifestyle, for kind of connecting the 3 of us together. The only thing to note is that I received 2 copies, which I am really upset about. If you saw my last vlog, I was just so sad because I hate when mistakes like that happen. I don't need 2 copies of this, obviously. So what I'm going to be doing today is shipping one of the copies over to Danny at Danny Dabbles. I also have another package that I have to mail today. A book was sold on Pango Books, which was really exciting. So that's going to find a second home as well. So I'll be doing all of that while also running other errands. And one of the errands I want to get done today is actually going to a bookstore because I'm loving this so much. I'm loving the audiobook so much. I'm only about 20% in, but I know I'm going to love the series, that I'm taking the leap and I'm going to buy books 1 and 2 in this series. So the first one is Hunt the Stars. As I said, I'm reading that. And then the second one is Eclipse the Moon. I'm really excited for this. So I called the bookstore ahead of time because it is quite a drive. There really aren't any bookstores in my area. I have a secondhand bookshop in town, but it's only open 2 days a week. And because it's secondhand, you never really know what's there, and I'm sure these aren't. So I got to go off to my closest larger retailer, which is going to be a Barnes & Noble. Called them, they had it. So I'm like, Thank gosh. So while I'm driving, I'm going to continue listening to Hunt the Stars. And just to give you a little bit of a taste of what this book is about, it follows Tavi. She is the captain of this bounty hunting crew, and their ship is called Starlight's Shadow, which is just amazing. And they have quite a big task ahead of them. And while it's going to be super dangerous and probably a really dumb idea, Tavi and her crew just can't help but actually take up the offer that's been provided to them. And that is hunting down this family heirloom by a Volovian kind of general. He is hiring them because he doesn't really trust anyone else to do it because Tavi is just that good. But the problem is there's a lot of history between humans and Volovians. They had this huge war that is over, but you know, it's harder to forget when you had to go through some really serious war events and a lot of PTSD, which pretty much all the characters have experienced at this point. So there's tension, there's a lot of mistrust, and Tavi does accept the offer though, because it's just so much money and she and her crew can't say no to it. It would honestly pay to take care of them for a couple of years at this point. And the catch is that they have to start their investigation in the heart of like Volovian territory. There is a bounty on Tavi's head, I'm pretty sure, and so it's going to be a mess. But I'm really enjoying so far the fact that the Volovian crew have now gone on to Tavi and her crew's ship, and so they're going to slowly be getting to know each other, testing certain prejudices while kind of confirming or obviously like disproving others. And so I love it when like non-realistic books do that, because it's their way of addressing certain like social commentary, cultures, multicultural, you know, kind of tension and everything. And I'm so excited. So while I drive quite a distance to that bookstore, I am going to listen to the audiobook. I'm probably going to peruse the city as well, because why not, while I'm traveling so far. And we're gonna see what kind of fun we get up to. But that's my Friday. Those are my weekend goals, trying to finish this maybe, and definitely finish the audiobook. So I'm really excited to have you guys join me on what I hope is gonna be an adventurous weekend. You can see what I bought! That's how clear plastic works. Yay! So excited! I ended up getting the 2 books that I ordered, that I confirmed they had, and then I just, of course, perused around a little bit, saw a bunch of books that I have recently read, adored, said hello to them, and then I said hello to a few other books that I read a while ago, and I still love them. And what I was really excited about is that I ended up finding Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, and you know what? That's what started my journey when it comes to like enjoying space opera and like sci-fi horror. So I was like, you know what? I'm adding it to my shelf, and I'm really excited for Ghost Station that comes out in 2024. So might as well get excited for it. And yeah, it was a really successful trip to Barnes & Noble. I'm so happy. It's Friday evening and I will be going to bed very soon, but I didn't want to do so before I gave you another update. As you saw in some of my footage earlier, my bookstore traverse was very much a success. I came home with Hunt the Stars, the first book in the Shadow Starlight series, and then I also grabbed book 2, Eclipse the Moon. That's not a surprise. As I said before, I called the bookstore, made sure they pulled those 2 copies ahead of time, and so they were just waiting for me. The other thing I ended up bringing home was Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. This is what I'm imagining is my gateway book into sci-fi horror, sci-fi space opera. I've just gotten more and more into it since reading that, and now I am just excited for book 2. I also could totally see myself rereading this because of how atmospheric and really fascinating it was. And I don't think I never thought I would say that about a horror book of any form. So I knew I had to finally add it to my shelf. And I kind of have. I've gone to other bookstores since reading it and I just haven't seen it on the shelf. Whereas the bookstore I went to today had 2 copies. So I was like, okay, I actually have to pick it up this time because it's been really hard for me to find this book anywhere else. And yeah, so it was just such a great experience. I'm so happy that I went. And yeah, like I said, for Hunt the Stars, I'm really enjoying the immersive experience now. I'm about halfway through and where to begin? I love Tavi. She is a great first-person narrator. I really like how dedicated she is to her team, how loyal she is to her team, especially because these crew members were people she served with in the war, and so they're basically like her found family. We have her, we have Eli, her first captain, is that what he's called? We also have Key, who's basically this like tech wizard, and a few other characters that have kind of been added to the story. We also have Luna, this kind of like alien species, fox, cat-like creature that is actually native to the Volovian territory, but has just kind of like become part of their family as well, because while they were in the war against the Volofs, she was an injured creature that they basically brought back to health, and then when they tried to send her back into the wild, she's like, nope, you're my family, I'm staying with you. And honestly, she's like one of my favorite characters. She doesn't speak, she just sends them. She's a bit of an empath and she can do a little bit of telepathy, so she'll just send them a picture of her food bowl and be like, I'm hungry, constantly. And I love it so much. She's a great addition, and you can kind of see her right here with them. It's so great. But anyway, so I'm really enjoying how Tavi is getting to know better Torin. He is the sergeant and Volof kind of general, actually. He's not even a sergeant, he's a general, or he was a general in the war, and so clearly they're not on the same side. But as the book's been progressing, they've been gaining more romantic attraction for each other. The tension is building, and finally now both characters seem very clearly aware that the other is attracted to them, and it seems really exciting. Of course, I'm nervous because so much more is going to happen, and one thing has already kind of created a slight rift between them, and that is the fact that originally Tavi and her crew agreed as bounty hunters to find this object, this family heirloom, and now they're realizing they arrived in Volovian territory under false pretenses because they're actually looking for something far more valuable. And so that has completely changed their mission. It's completely changed their level and sense of safety, and like what is actually on the line for them finding this new valuable thing. And it's, yeah, so I ended it in the middle of a chapter right before she and Torin are about to get into it. The fact that she feels like he obviously lied to her, and now it's, oh my gosh, what a mess. Meanwhile, we're learning more about her experience in the war, how she unfortunately had to be a part of some shady things. She tried to stop a certain event that happened that killed innocents, and of course it didn't work out, and now she's been forced into silence by basically like the Federation that she was a soldier under. So it's really fascinating. I'm liking that the 2 crews, the 2 people who, you know, the two sides that seemed like they were enemies are slowly kind of melding together and befriending each other. Some of the side characters seem to be getting closer to one another, which of course intrigues me, especially as we are getting closer and closer to, say, other books that might be following other romantic couples. I don't know. But anyway, so it's really fun. I'm really enjoying it. And then what I've been reading tonight, though, has been more of Islands of Abandonment. I am about at page 200, so that's really exciting. That means I only have a little over 100 pages left in this book. And one thing that I found really fascinating is in this chapter, we learn about certain toxin and heavy metal resistant plants and how they kind of find a way to almost pull the toxins from the earth and allow the earth that we humans have destroyed to kind of heal the certain scars that have happened from war, from, you know, chemical dumping, everything. But there's this one example that I found really, really fascinating. And let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah. So it says, let me see here. Other species include the brake fern, which removes arsenic from the soil and stores it in its fronds, and it is being tested as a natural filter for contaminated water in Bangladesh, following a decades-long arsenic poisoning crisis. And sunflowers, which accumulate a wide range of heavy metals and are grown on sites of former mines and smelters in Australia. Like, how fascinating is that? I didn't realize that something so common and normal as, like, say, sunflowers or a certain type of fern could have those types of properties. So that's why I really enjoy nonfiction. I swear it can be so thoughtful and so interesting and insightful, but it just takes me so long to get through them that, you know, meanwhile, I'm whipping through this thing like no tomorrow. But anyway, so that's what I did today, and tomorrow I've got my She Done It event in the afternoon, and I probably will have a slow, relaxing morning. I might go for a walk. That sounds really nice. We'll see if the weather allows me to do so, but anyway, that's my Friday. Really successful, very tired now, and I'll be going to bed soon. All right, I'll talk to you guys in the AM. Bye. It is Saturday, early evening. I had a really full day and I meant to give an earlier update, but this is the earliest time that I kind of found enough time and I was in the right headspace to stop. But I ended up in the morning having a bit of a lazy bones start, so I didn't go for a walk. It just got too warm too quickly, but I do intend on remedying that by going for a walk this evening. I'm at about 75%, 3/4 of the way through Hunt the Stars, and I am so heavily invested in this world, in Tavi and Torin, in their relationship as it becomes ever more complicated. In the last chapter or two, something just happened that has tied them together in like this crazy way, and oh my gosh, I'm so invested in their relationship and in like their mission and how this impacts pretty much all of their crew members involved and how it relates to the war. It's really well done. I'm so impressed by how Mihalik has like intertwined these various issues and conflicts and everything like that. I ended up finishing another chapter in Islands of Abandonment. This one focused in Tanzania, which I thought was really interesting. There was this one focus specifically on isolated areas, for instance, island settings, and how they're a little bit more susceptible to invasive species, and how a lot of times those are the areas that are impacted the most when it comes to extinction rates or endangered rates. For instance, 61% of all extinct and 37% of all critically endangered species are from islands. That is a crazy statistic, and it obviously isn't surprising, but it's still, it's just staggering to think how much globalization has negatively impacted the environment, and not even always intentionally. Sometimes we're introducing species intentionally to ecosystems where they're not meant to be, and it just causes havoc. But other times, boats or other ways, seeds being attached to clothing suddenly go off and now they're in regions they're not meant to be, and they don't have any natural predators, and it just runs amok. So it was really fascinating chapter. What's actually interesting is a friend of mine at work, I have for some reason hadn't had this idea. I never thought about this, but whenever she reads a collection, whether it be a nonfiction collection or a collection of short stories, she gives like an overall rating, but she also rates each story separately on its own merit and then kind of judges her feelings overall. I never thought to give a rating per story before, but this is going to be my first time doing that. I kind of went back and reflected on each chapter because each chapter focuses on a different theme. So I'm just in my mind treating them as if they're separate nonfiction essays. And so I have my little rating system here, which I'm having a really good time kind of comparing the chapters that are my favorites. And at the moment, my favorites are definitely the one set in Cyprus, Estonia, and then the one that discusses Chernobyl. All three of those were really insightful. And honestly, I haven't disliked any of the chapters. They've been really good. The one for Tanzania, I'm probably gonna give 4 stars, and the rest have been kind of 4 or 3 stars, just because it's just really informative and great. But anyway, so I'm really excited that I'm finally learning how to do that and like making my mind think about the chapters in their own merit on their own. The next location we'll be going to is Swona, Scotland, and we were in Scotland in the first chapter, so I'm interested to see how we return to that. And it's called The Trip to Rose Cottage. The one before was called Alien Invasion, which seems really fascinating. The author even talks about how when we're discussing species, cross species, introducing them, and invasive language, a lot of times it does become a bit xenophobic, which is just fascinating how we're combining sociocultural terms, sociocultural issues, and basically inheriting that language to talk about scientific discoveries and everything. So anyway, really enjoying that. And oh yeah, the She Done It live episode went on. That's what I was busy with this afternoon, and I think it went really well. I saw Camilla, Scorpio rising, in the comments, and that was so nice to see. So thanks for stopping by. I really liked seeing your comments and your own thoughts as the discussion was going on. I think it was a success. Caroline, the host, was really pleased. The guest seemed really happy too, to just be engaging with her work and her thoughts on Agatha Christie. So it was really lovely. And like I said before, I'll include a link below if anyone's interested in watching that. I wasn't on screen, but I was like in backstage on StreamYard, kind of monitoring the progress of it all. Yeah, so those are my updates so far. I will probably, be having dinner at some point, going for a walk, having another chapter read, and that means I'll only have 2 read, and I might finish those tomorrow. Am I actually finally gonna finish Islands of Abandonment? I don't know, that'd be crazy. And then I only have a quarter left in Hunt the Stars. So I'm feeling confident all of a sudden that I'm going to finish both books I'm reading this weekend. Can you imagine if I start off my Monday having no books on the docket? I just get to pick one and it's the one and only I'm reading. What an experience. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next update. Good evening. It is Saturday night and I ended up going for a walk. I definitely just avoided a storm that was rolling in, so I didn't go for very long. It was about 1.5 miles tonight, but I'm glad that I was able to kind of move my body. And I listened to a little bit more of Hunt the Stars. I'm really close to the end, but you know what's so funny is when I got home, and I, relaxed, read another chapter of Islands of Abandonment, so I only have 2 more, so I'm probably gonna finish it tomorrow. But I just was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting so close to Hunt the Stars that I was like, I'm not ready to kind of go through the emotional craziness of actually finishing this book tonight, because I knew that if I continued going as far as I went, because I think there's only like an hour and a half left in the audiobook, I was like, I'm just gonna be wrecked. I'm gonna be like emotionally, mentally wrecked, just because I've been having so much fun with it. So I actually like I couldn't keep going because I'm just enjoying it too much, and I feel like I was getting through it too quickly. And so yeah, so I'm gonna finish it tomorrow. I'm gonna have 2 books finished tomorrow, hopefully. Meanwhile, this one was really interesting. We returned to Scotland in this one chapter, and Cal Flynn, the author, she was spending time on Swona Island, where there are feral cows because the community that once lived there just dwindled off, and eventually now no one lives there anymore, but the cattle still do since the 70s. It's just been this kind of small herd of now feral cows, which is really fascinating. But there was this one moment where she was in one of the abandoned homes and she was going to spend the night, and she heard this noise as if feet were running around the floor, and she suddenly got really scared, which of course you would, because you think you're alone. And so she was looking around, and there was this moment where she mentioned, she realized it was an animal that was between the walls. But I had a feeling like this, and she didn't mention it in that chapter, but there was a moment in the chapter where she was talking about Cyprus and how the capital city, I think it's the capital city, is divided between the Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot kind of like skirmish. And so there's like this fencing where there's the regular part of the city, but then there's the abandoned part of the city that is a part of, what is it, the Northern Republic of Cyprus, the Northern Turkish Republic of Cyprus, is that what it's called? Either way, where this tourist, he once went through the fence, and it was just this glorious, beautiful kind of paradise with like no humans around. But then suddenly this looter comes into the picture, and he suddenly gets so scared that he then runs back into civilization. And I was thinking in that moment, like, that would be so lovely if you knew that you were alone, if you knew for a fact that there wouldn't be anyone else. But I was like, as soon as you're wondering that there could be another person near you, I just immediately, in my mind, I was like, that would have been so scary. And so when she is now reflecting on her own personal experience in Scotland, like on this island, when she thinks that there's someone on this island with her when there's not supposed to be any humans, she put it into words what I was feeling, and she was saying, there's peace in being alone, but the fear comes from being alone with. And that's exactly how I felt when I was reading her chapter about Cyprus in that moment. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy that she kind of circled back, maybe unintentionally, maybe intentionally, to that feeling of the difference between being alone and being alone with. Like, oh gosh, it was really great. Like, I was glad that it echoed the feelings I had in other chapters and kind of just reminded me about things that I was thinking about earlier. Anyway, so I did that. I ended up losing track of time, and I was puzzling while watching QI. I'm a huge fan of like British panel shows and other things, and so I was doing that, and suddenly I look at the clock and it's almost 1 a.m. Like, what am I doing? Oh my gosh. So I'm going to bed, and then I'm going to sleep in, and then I'm going to have a nice, relaxing morning, reading probably another chapter of this with my breakfast, and then mustering the emotional stamina to finish Hunt the Stars, because I'm really enjoying it so much. I think that's it. I don't think I did anything else. If I did, I'll remember tomorrow. Good night. Good morning. I hope you slept well. I did, actually. I slept in and it was lovely. I also ended up reading another chapter, the second to last chapter in Islands of Abandonment, and this one was really thought-provoking. It's definitely one of my favorite in the collection of chapters that I've read. It focuses on this volcanic eruption that happened in the mid-90s in Plymouth, Montserrat, in the Caribbean island, and I had no idea that this happened So I really love how nonfiction books can open your eyes to things that are happening all over the world. And this volcano ended up being really devastating. Now half of the island isn't even inhabitable. They have cordoned off zones in regards to how safe one might be if they were living in this area. And it's really thought-provoking. The person that Cal Flynn was interviewing and who accompanied her into the lesser safe zones to see kind of the devastation and just the desolate abandonment that was the city, the capital city of Plymouth. And this gentleman, he was a child when it happened in the 90s. Now he has his own kids, and he was comparing experiences, saying, I remember when the entire island was habitable, when you could go and traverse wherever you wanted, it was fine. Whereas now my children, it's normal for them to know that half the island is not safe to live on, which is just, it's really crazy to think about, especially in a matter of just a few decades, the difference of experiences. Flynn also touches upon the climate crisis, how these devastating, catastrophic climate events can not only cause havoc in the immediate vicinity of the area, but across continents, across the entire globe. She kind of quickly goes through the history of super volcanic events that have happened across millennia, and it reminded me of this one book that I read. I believe it's called Transcendence, but it's by Gaia Vince. I'll make sure to have the cover up here. One of my favorite reads during the year that I read it was a couple years ago. I still own my copy, and reading this chapter especially makes me want to go back and reread that one. But of course, we only have so much time in our lives to go back and reread certain books, but I really, really enjoyed it. This is definitely a 5-star chapter. And yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I'm reading this book. It's been a long time since I've read environmentalist nonfiction, and this book just reminds me of why I need to do it more often. Anyway, so moving on, the rest of my Sunday, I think I'm going to actually return to my puzzle, and rather than pick up Hunt the Stars, which I do need to do. Oh my gosh, I'm just so sad that it's gonna be over. I think that's gonna be a 5-star read for me because I want to postpone its ending, and that hasn't happened to me in a long time. But while I'm puzzling, I think I might actually do a little research, find a documentary online that focuses on volcanic eruptions and volcanic activity, just because I'm so fascinated now. And then I have to go grocery shopping because I have no food. And yeah, then I will tuck back into this, finish this book, finish Hunt the Stars. What a successful weekend vlog, am I right? I mean, I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself because both of these books aren't finished, but I feel like in my last update, which will be this evening, I'll be able to say that I finished them both. That final update probably will be happening just before or during Nicole over at Dusty Book Sniffers, her weekly reading sprints. I've just kind of found myself adding it to my weekend plans every Sunday evening, so I'm definitely going to be doing that, but we'll see if I might have to pick up a new read, or maybe I'll use them as productivity sprints instead. Anyway, those are my plans, and I'll see you guys in the last update of this vlog. It's Monday morning. I meant to record last night my final thoughts and just wrap up the weekend vlog last night, but I ended up getting too tired, so I am recording while enjoying my coffee and while my breakfast is in the oven. So what did I do last night? I actually had a really great evening. I ended up going for a walk, and that was after I finished Hunt the Stars, which I'm giving 5 stars. It was amazing. It was a perfect space opera romance. Heavy on the action though. There was a great kind of complex political system going on with the war, and I really enjoyed that aspect. And yeah, Torin has my heart. He and Tavi are such a great couple together, and I'm really excited because I know who the couple are going to be for book 2 already, for Eclipse the Moon, so I'm so excited to just jump in that at some point. So I ended up finishing that, and then I went for a walk, and just because the weather's been really weird, as you've seen on this vlog, it's been raining, and then it's been lovely, and then it's been lovely while also raining, but I ended up being able to squeeze in an hour walk, about 3 miles. I listened to some music and just relaxed and allowed my brain to kind of cope with the fact that Hunt the Stars was over. And yeah, it was a really great walk then, and Nicole ended up surprising me and inviting me on as a guest for her sprints, which I was already planning on doing, obviously, as someone being in the comments, but it was just even more fun to be on screen with her and with Sarah over at Sarah Y. And so that was really great. They helped me finish my other book, Islands of Abandonment. I'm giving that 5 stars too. Honestly, it's really tough for me not to give informative reads on like nature writing and environmentalism and the climate anything lower than like 4 or 5 stars, because it's so important and it's so thoughtful. And even though some chapters doing my little system I gave like 3 stars, I gave most of them 4 or 5 stars, and I'm still going to be thinking about this book long after I finished it, so I'm giving it 5 stars. I think the research that Cal Flynn went into doing it, how she traveled across the world to these various sites as a journalist, is just, honestly, it was really nice. And it was really nice to see some uplifting kind of angles on this whole climate crisis, and most of the time it's uplifting because humans aren't there, and that's what's allowing nature to redeem itself. So it's just, I don't know, it was really thought-provoking. I'm giving that 5 stars. And now, the end of the weekend, it's a Monday morning, I'm not reading any books. Isn't that crazy? I don't have any books that I'm currently reading. So what I'm thinking about doing, love coffee. What I'm thinking about doing is maybe starting Hooked by Elizabeth Hunter. I happen to also have the audiobook on Hoopla, so I was thinking I could just immersive read this. I read the first book in this series. The series is a love story on 7th and Main. The first book was Ink, and that followed Emmy and Ox. Emmy, a bookstore owner, and Ox, a tattoo artist. They joined forces and opened the shop called Ink, and it was just honestly lovely. I rarely give books 5 stars. I think Ink was my second 5-star romance ever, and I've only given 3 books 5 stars, and 2 of the other 2 go to Katie Birchall. So clearly I'm a very picky romance reader, but I am so excited for this one. These 2 characters ended up making a cameo in book 1, obviously. Both of them are friends of Emmy, and I'm really excited. I love the representation. We've got a plus size romantic interest, and we also have an interracial coupling, so it's just, I think it's going to be really good, and that's probably what I'm going to start with. Yeah, I'm so glad that I'm still into romance, because as you might know, I wasn't a fan of Happy Place, and it put me in a really weird place as far as romances go. But Hunt the Stars surprised me in having a really lovely romance, and so now I think I'm back on the horse, which is really great. And I love that, as I said, my goal this weekend was just to finish the 2 books I had so that I could be a blank slate as far as a reader goes, and I'm really glad that I now don't have anything in my mind beyond what my next read will be. So I'm officially not reading any books right now. When was the last time this has happened? That's crazy. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching this vlog. I highly recommend that you like it. If you've gotten to the end, consider subscribing and mention in the comments what you were doing this weekend. And let me know if I've intrigued you enough to pick up either of the books that I just read. Okay, have a good one. Bye!